Now in this brief video on Mark 12, 41 to 44, you will discover how God can use you even if you don't think that you have a lot to offer. Hi everyone, I'm Mark Leeming, helping you think biblically in a brief amount of time each and every Thursday. So if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Now in Mark 12, 41 to 44, Jesus and his disciples were in the Jewish temple in Jerusalem, and they were sitting right across from where people were dropping their offering into the offering boxes for the Jewish treasury. And there were 13 large offering boxes, each one with a trumpet-shaped receptacle made out of metal, so that when coins were dropped in, and remember there was no paper money back then, it was all coins. When people dropped coins in, a sound would be generated, and obviously the noise level would be determined by how much or how little money was put in. Now, as Jesus was sitting there, he observed all kinds of rich people putting in large sums of money, and I'm sure they were trying to be as loud as they could so that everyone around would take notice and observe how holy and righteous they were. But then a poor widow came along and tossed in 2 small coins, the smallest coins in existence back then, hardly making a sound as they dropped into the offering box. But Jesus took note, and he called his disciples over and said to them, okay, I'm paraphrasing a bit here. You see that poor widow? She gave more than all those rich people. Those rich people, that was just chump change to them. That was just pocket change. It didn't cost them anything, but those 2 small coins that the widow threw in, that was a fortune to her, and yet she still gave. In God's eyes, she gave more than all those rich people. Now this story in Mark 12, 41 to 44 is, I guess you could say, part 2, with part 1 being found in verses 38 to 40, where Jesus went full animal on the religious leaders who found loopholes or created loopholes in the Jewish law and actually exploited widows. They confiscated their homes, their belongings, their property, and then just callously kicked them out on the street, and then had the sheer audacity to walk around the streets of Israel, of Jerusalem, and portray themselves as great men of God. I actually did a video on that last week, and you can watch it. I'll put an end card at the end of this video, or for those of you watching this video from Facebook, the link will be in the comment section below. Check it out. So what did Jesus mean then when he said that the poor widow actually gave more than all of those rich people? Well, the first thing we need to understand is that back then people associated great wealth with spirituality. That if you were rich, it meant that God favored you and you were more righteous than others. That's why on another occasion when Jesus said that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven, his own disciples were astonished and said, "Who then can be saved?" And so Jesus was teaching that spiritual wealth isn't to be measured by physical wealth. The second is that as mortals, we view the world and our interactions within it through the lens of the temporal rather than the eternal, through the physical rather than the spiritual. Because in God's eyes, that widow did give more. It was the spiritual offering that she gave, not the physical amount that mattered. Now, the thing that I absolutely love about this story is that poor widow, she had no idea of the spiritual worth of those 2 small coins. She had no idea that the Messiah was sitting right across from her watching. She had no idea that he would call his own disciples over and use her as an illustration of true spirituality. No idea that her deed would be written down and become part of the gospel story. No idea that countless sermons would be preached about her down through the ages. And certainly no idea that 2,000 years later some crazy YouTube preacher would make a video about her and people all across the world would watch it. You see, all of that money that the rich people gave that day went to the upkeep of the Jewish temple, a temporal structure of brick and mortar that was literally destroyed about 40 years later. But that widow's offering has kept on multiplying down through the ages, and so hopefully it's inspired you not to look at things through the world's perspective, but rather through God's. We live in the age of the big, the spectacular, the flashy, where it seems that everybody's trying to do something great, something big, something spectacular in order to get noticed so they can immediately put it on social media and get praised for it. Just like the rich 2,000 years ago, trying to make as much noise as they could as they poured their money into the offering boxes. Do what you can for God, no matter how insignificant you think that it is, because in the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter what other people see, it's what Jesus sees. Now, the end card for the video that I just mentioned a couple minutes ago is right over there. And for those of you watching from Facebook, the link will be in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see all of you next Thursday. Bye for now.